So once you've signed the papers and you go out and sit on the bike, first thing I'd suggest you do, take a nice deep breath, try and be as relaxed as possible, and then obviously you've got to start the bike, make sure it's in neutral beforehand. But before you move off and before you stop, remember this is not my actual test, this was from my training day. So do what I didn't do here, but on my test I did. I made sure before I moved off and whenever I stopped the bike, I checked each mirror and done a left and a right shoulder check, just to make sure that he knows I'm checking my mirrors and doing my shoulder checks. So after you've done your first mirror check and shoulder checks after starting the bike, just slowly ride in through the gates. You won't necessarily have the cones right by the gates, it just depends on where your test centre is set up. So they might be over to the left or to the right or at the back. So just as soon as you go in to the gates, just stop, put it in neutral and wait for him to then instruct you to do the next part. Obviously if yours is set up like this, the next part you'll just use as much room as you need just to turn around, come back and park into the parking spot. Once you're in the parking spot, you'll just switch off the engine, after putting it in neutral of course, switch off the engine, put it on the stand, get off the bike and wait for the instructor to come. He'll then explain what he wants you to do next, which will be the first actual exercise, and that's the manual handling. All you have to do, as you can see what I'm doing now, lift the bike up off the stand, walk it backwards, just make sure you've got a good grip on the back or something, do however you feel comfortable, good grip on the handlebar, keep it as upright as possible, slowly walk it around, walk it out quite far, obviously try and make sure you don't go nowhere near the cones, but walk out quite far so you've got a good arch to get it and aim it for the other parking spot as accurately as possible, because you want to get it as much in the middle as possible and avoid knocking the cones with your feet as you go in as well. But once you get it in, get it nice and straight, you are allowed to go back out again if you want to straighten up and stuff like that. It doesn't matter, you can do it however you like, as long as you get it from one parking spot to the other without touching cones, without dropping the bike obviously. But once you've got it where you want it, put it on the stand and just wait for the next instruction. He'll then explain what he wants you to do next, and the next exercise is the slalom and the figure of 8, which is two separate exercises, but you do them in one because you do the figure of 8 just after you've done the slalom. Again, if you really are nervous, try and take a deep breath before you do anything. There's no rush, there's no time limit, just take your time when you're doing any exercise. And for the slalom, all you've got to do is get to your bike point or just after it so you've got a bit of drive, keep the revs up, hold the revs steady and keep around 5 to 6 miles per hour while you're doing the slalom, and just make sure you stay fairly close to the cones but not so close that you'll clip them with your feet, and you should be alright at that sort of speed. Use the brake if you need to, just to hold you steady and stop your speed going up a bit. And then once you've got to the figure of 8 area, use as much room as possible, keep your head up, look into the direction you want to go. Like I say, use as much space as you need. It doesn't matter as long as you don't hit any cones. You can go past the last yellow cone if you wish, if you want to, but you don't really need to. As long as you're keeping it around 6 miles an hour, you should be okay to get it in, as long as you're giving yourself enough space. And like I say, just keep an eye on where you're going. You'll go around 2.5, 3 times, and then he'll wave you over. Take it nice and wide round and ride back towards him facing towards the 4 blue cones, and then you'll go on to the next exercise, which is exercise number 4, I believe, which is the slow ride. Here you're just showing that you can control the bike in slow moving traffic. You'll want to be going about 3 to 4 miles per hour. Again, just get your bike point, nice amount of revs, and just let the bike go along nice and slowly. If your speed raises up to about 5-6 miles an hour at the start, just give it a little bit of brake, and that'll bring the speed down just enough to go how you want to. And on your actual test, you'll probably best to stop actually in the box. I think that's what you're supposed to do. And still remember to do your checks every time before you do a manoeuvre, and every time you stop, check your mirrors, do your shoulder checks, left and right. Once that's done, go on to exercise number 5, I believe, which is your U-turn. Remember to do your checks again, and then just before you move off, a right check, move off, just before you do your turn, another right check, and then you do your turn. Remember to keep your head up and look to where you want to go, and you should bring it round quite nicely. On the actual test site, it's quite wide. You have more room than you probably will think you have, so it's quite easy on the actual test site. So take your time. You'll have plenty of practice before the actual test anyway, so you'll realise that you've got plenty of room for that. But make sure you stop fairly close to the white line, but not too close. It doesn't matter if your foot goes on it, but you don't want the bike to be on it or past it. And after this exercise, it's the first high speed exercise. This will be the control stop. Do your checks before you move off again, just as with everyone. Right up to the end. There's no speed limit really, but just keep it below 30, I guess, just to be on the safe side. Get it into second gear, stay in second gear. As you go round the back, you do want to be looking at about 19 miles an hour, but they will not ever check your speed up at the back end, but they say at least 19 miles an hour. And then on the control stop, you want to be going 25 to 30 miles per hour. I'm sure the test instructor on the day of my test said 20 to 30 miles per hour. But just to make sure you keep them happy and get your speed up a bit, and just keep between 25 and 30 miles per hour. And then all you've got to do is come to a control stop. So after you've come through the cones, start rolling off the throttle. Start applying a little bit of brake, front brake, not too much, but obviously you don't want to give it too much right at the end and jack it forward and stuff like that. You've got to show you've got control, so you want to start easing on the front brake. As you come to the cones, get down into first, ease off the front brake and use the rear brake just to smooth the stop, and then check your mirrors. You can do your shoulder checks again as well. I've done my shoulder checks before and after every exercise just to make sure I kept the instructor happy. And after this one, they'll ask you to turn around again. You don't have to stay within the white line, so that doesn't matter if you do or you don't. You'll then do the next high speed manoeuvre, which is the emergency stop. You'll ride back up again, keep it in second gear again. Again, try for 19 miles an hour, 20, 21, 22 miles an hour, something like that. Anything like that is fine. Go round the back, and as you come out of the cones on the bend, open up the throttle quite a bit because you want to get over 31 miles per hour for this part. So you want to open the throttle up quite a bit. Don't be too scared. As soon as he puts his hand up, just squeeze on the front brake. Don't just yank it on because you don't want to end up flying off the bike or something, or activating the ABS or stalling or anything like that, which I did do a few times in practice. But you just want to fairly quickly but smoothly squeeze the front brake. You don't really need to use the rear brake at all, but you can right at the end just give it a little bit if you feel you need to, or if you can. But you can do it all on front brake, just cover the rear brake, and then obviously just as you come to a stop, pull the clutch in to stop the bike from stalling. If you do stall, don't worry, it's not a fail. You will incur a fault, but you won't fail for stalling. After that, he'll ask you just to turn around again. He'll explain what he wants you to do. You'll do the final exercise. You'll ride up again, which is the hazard avoidance. You'll ride up again, get it into second gear, round the back at 19 miles an hour plus again. It's nice to get a few extra miles per hour around the back end, just so you don't need to get much extra speed down the straight. And as you go down through the cones, the yellow cones are where the speed trap is. So on this exercise, because you're going to come off the power a bit, you want to open up the throttle and don't come off the throttle till you've gone through the yellow cones, or as you go through the yellow cones, come off, but try and get to about 35 miles an hour so you don't lose much speed as you're going through the yellow cones. But as soon as you sort of go through the yellow cones, come off the power, push on the right handlebar so you go right, and then on the left again so you go back left, so you go through the blue cones, which is the hazard avoidance, and back in, because you need to be within where the two blue cones are, which you'll notice here is taken away 2 of the cones. So instead of 4, there's 2. You don't have to stop your wheel within the 2 cones, but if you do, that's just perfect. So it's best 2, it's easy enough to. You just do another control stop after you've done the avoidance. And yeah, as long as you are within the 2 cones, before or after the cones, or right between them, that's fine. And after you've done that, you're finished. He'll tell you either to wait there while he opens the gates, and when he calls you to go through, or he'll say go and wait at the gates, I'll come and open them and then I'll let you through. But remember, still, before you move off, check your mirrors, do your shoulder checks, just to make sure that you don't do anything wrong. Just do the same again as you go through the gate. Do your checks, go through the gate, go and park in the parking bay, check your mirrors, turn everything off on the stand and get off. And that's your test over. That's how you do the Mod One. Unfortunately, I listened to my instructors and decided not to put the camera on, rather just get it done and see what happens. But you just saw what you need to do for the Mod One. And I can tell you, I passed with flying colours, no minors or nothing. I was so chuffed, man. I had a couple of little awkward moments after we had a little practice on the street. Just where I stalled it on the emergency stop again, and my U-turns didn't feel brilliant. Although I knew I had it. On the day we were training, I had them down perfect, so I wasn't too worried about them. And everything just fell into place, it felt right. Yeah, and as soon as I started doing it, I was like, yeah, I got this. Everything just felt right. I was still slightly worried about, not the emergency stop itself, but on those high speed ones, I was a little worried that I wouldn't get the speed necessary. But got it all straight away. Perfect. I was surprised I'd done it with no minors at all. I was really chuffed with that. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the video of me showing how to do the Mod One and telling you that I did pass the Mod One. It was me doing it in the video as well, by the way. It was on my practice session, on-site training, that's what they call it. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video. And good luck if you're doing your test. If you've already done it, well done for doing it.
It's me and my man compadre, black and white, white and ivory, and black ebony. They can't step to me, weaponry is heavenly. They can't see us in the 313 vicinity. Hey yo, M, hi, 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 hi.
ha ha. I come in like ha ha, I'm ill like nah nah. And y'all don't wanna see me cause I'm ill with the skill.